smoke. OVS, Old Virginia smoke. Old Virginia.
This podcast is brought to you by the Kansas City Barbecue Store, the official provider of barbecue supplies to listeners of Pitmaster. And you don't want to miss out on this discount from the Kansas City Barbecue Store. From smokers and fuel to rubs and sauces, the Kansas City Barbecue Store has everything and anything you could possibly want. Make the Kansas City Barbecue Store your one-stop shop for all your outdoor cooking needs. As a listener of the OVS Pitmaster podcast, you can get 10% off of your order this spring by using the code PITPOD, P-I-T-P-O-D, all caps, for online orders at www.thekansascitybarbecuestore.com. This podcast is brought to you by BarbecueData.com. BarbecueData.com is your one-stop shop for all of your barbecue competition data. Historical data, calls, wins, placements, everything under one roof. It's a great way not only to track yourself in the standings, but also to track how you improve your scores from year to year. Listeners of this podcast can receive 20% off of a new subscription to BarbecueData.com with the code PITPOD. That's one word, all capital letters, P-I-T-P-O-D, PITPOD. So check your team scores, check on others, and do it all on BarbecueData.com. My name is Luke Darnell, Pitmaster of Old Virginia Smoke, and I am the host of Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. And we have a special episode this week. We got our right-hand man, our wingman, Brian Corbett with Smokin Skullies with us again today. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing good, Luke. All things considered. How about you?
I am great. And it's kind of the Brian Corbett month of Pitmaster, just because we have our Wise episodes going that we live recorded. That was a lot of fun. And this podcast is, we never really do topical or timely podcasts here. We record our stuff ahead of time, but we talk a lot about habits and routines and stuff for Pitmasters on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the questions that I never ask is, what's one of your worst fears at a contest? And I think my worst fear would be having a rep come and tell me that I'm out of a category. And unfortunately, you being, basically my wingman on this podcast, had that unfortunately happen to you this weekend.
First time.
Time
for me, yeah.
And we've all seen it at contests and we've heard about it. And we always say, that'll never, ever happen to me. And why don't you just go ahead and lay the scene out during rib turn in and tell us what happened, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. So cooking in Galax, Virginia this weekend at Smoke on the Mountain in Galax, or I think that's what it was called. But anyway, Jason Baumgartner, the organizer, I'm going to tell you, first time I was there, had a fantastic time. Can't wait to go back. I'm not lying to you. It was great. I had a good
Really?
time. I had a good time. Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. Now, it was under a previous administration. I never hated the contest, but I always said I would never go back.
I have heard I've heard things along those lines. And so anyway, I went back. I would advise that contest to anyone that can get there reasonably. It's a great contest. They really did a good job on more than one front, and we can go into that a little later too if we want to. But
very cool.
Cooking on the street, and what I mean by cooking on the street, going old school. You saw me do it in Wise, Virginia. You've seen me do it at a couple other places where I pulled the Renegade, the Outlaw Renegade, and pop up the 12 by 12 tent. Got a cooler, got a couple of fold-up tables, and a bag chair, man, and we're rocking and rolling. So, and I have really enjoyed that the last 7, 8, 9 months. As I've done that a few times now. It's really a lot of fun. I'm setting up in 20 minutes. I'm breakdown in 20 minutes. And it's quite nice.
I love cooking like that. That is.
Yeah. I've always said I haven't done it yet where the weather was poor. So I'm looking forward. I'm not looking forward to that, but I've got other means if I know the weather's going to be poor. The biggest the downside to it, is the public sometimes can not understand what we do. And I understand that's what happened here. But the entire time, Noel K and I were cooking side by side. He was also cooking the same manner with his Jambo pop-up tent, couple of tables. And we're on the street, one side, on the sidewalk on the other, and public just doing a great job. I mean, they really brought the public out, which is wonderful for these contests. That's how they sustain. But they didn't understand. So we kept getting asked, hey man, can I buy a chicken? Can I buy a piece of that chicken? Can I have a piece of that chicken? And so when we got to ribs, he and he's at his table, I'm at my table under our own tents and our own cook sites. And I'm slicing ribs, he's slicing ribs. I mean, there must be 10, 12 people there. I'm talking a foot from my table, man.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, crazy. So, can I buy a rib? Can I sample a rib? And, there was one guy standing there by himself, in the very, very, very beginning. And, the end bone I cut off. I knew I wasn't going to taste it. It's the one that's always,
right.
fall off the bone. At least you hope it is, because if it's tough, the rest of it's damn sure tough. But, I said, here, man, just enjoy that. And didn't think nothing of it. He backed away and started eating his rib. And then there's all these other people. Anyway, so long story short, I talked myself out of doing 4 over 4 or 5 over 5. For those that don't know what that is, it's 4 bones on top of 4 bones in your turn-in box, or 5 bones on top of 5 bones. I'm a big proponent of give the judges what you want the judges to eat. And if that's only 6 bones, and I had one rack that I thought was absolutely pure gold, in my opinion, not to mean it was going to score that way, but in my opinion was absolutely pure gold. And I had 6 bones off that rack, and I set them aside. I rebrushed them. I made sure they were what I wanted. I took my knife under the 5 to put across the back. I put across the back, and then I took the 6th bone and put it at the bottom like a showcase bone. I turned around. Noel and I were sharing a trash can. So I turn around, walk away to take my nitrile gloves off and my cotton gloves so that I could clean up the box. And just, I grabbed my wet paper towel, wiped around the outside of the box, shut the lid, and walked. And, never looked at the ribs again. They were already in the box, right? And while I'm doing that, there's ribs literally coming off of my table. Like people just grabbing them. And, and I walk my box. I'm walking back. Noel's walking his box. And he says, look down there, man, they're like vultures, just joking around. Well, there's people in my tent and in his tent just grabbing the ribs.
Wow.
And didn't really think, it's not very courteous, but they don't understand. You have to tell yourself that. They don't know what's going on. It's still a little bit rude, but they don't know what's going on. I was like, so I got back there and I was all right, folks, I got to get my pork ready. And they just kind of went on about their business, right? The ribs were amazing, the best ribs I've ever had. And I was like, well, they weren't for free for you, but anyway, they're gone.
Right.
So, Noel got back, started doing his pork. Well, as I'm, tearing into my pork, I'm getting, finding my tubes, my money muscles. I'm doing all the stuff we do, right? And the one guy did give a rib, so he actually comes walking back by, and he says, man, that was an amazing rib. That's the best rib I've ever had in my life. And in his hand was a rib that did not have a bite out of it. And I said, are you still carrying around that rib? And I can't say it's his exact words, but it's pretty darn close. He said, oh man, that was so good. I'm saving this one here for later. Take it home.
Oh my.
He was so excited, and I was like, all right. And I remember thinking to myself, why would you tell me how good that rib is if you hadn't eaten it yet?
Right.
And so he walked off, and 2 or 3 minutes later, I hear what no Pitmaster wants to hear. And that is the voice of the KCBS rep. In this case, it was Doug Reed, and I love Doug Reed, one of the best reps in the country.
Right, and Doug's family. Doug's family,
fantastic dude, wonderful rep. I hear Doug Reed's voice, and he says, Scully. And he says it in a low monotone voice and I turn around and look, and he's got a styrofoam box in his hand.
Oh.
And he opens it, and there's 4 bones across the top and 1 at the bottom. And I just look at the box, and I'm like, why is he showing me my box? And then I count, and I'm like, well, I look him up, and I say, it is what it is at this point. And I turn around, and he shuts the box, and he walks away. And I pause for a minute. I put my hands on the table. As pitmasters, man, you've got 2 choices right then.
Absolutely.
Got 2 choices right then and there. And I was contemplating both of them. I knew which direction I was going to go, but you have 2 choices. Choice 1, and these are in no particular order. Choice 1, you throw your hands up, you quit, you throw it all in the trash, and say it's over. I can't win. I'm done. Or you say, I've got 2 categories yet left. I cannot win, but I didn't come here to quit, and I'm going to do the best I can in these 2 categories. And literally, right as I'm contemplating what to do, I knew I was going to go that direction. Choice 2.
Sure.
But you can't help but take a moment to go, is this even worth it? And right as I'm contemplating that, I hear no okay. And he says, get it off your mind. You've got 2 more to go. Finish it. And I picked my knife back up, and I started doing what I was doing with my fork. And I built my pork box, although I was disgruntled, thinking, all I could do was think through ribs. Like, how did I do that?
Right.
At this point in time, the guy walking by with the rib telling me how good my ribs are in no way clicks in my head. In no way it clicks in my head that there's my 6th rib walking down the sidewalk.
Right.
I'm just sitting here thinking, I put 5 in the box. I can't believe I put 5 in the box. I've never put 5 in the box. And I taught myself how to do an 8 on 8. If I'd have done 8 on 8, So, all that's going through my head while I'm doing my pork. Well, I do my pork the way I always do it. And and it was good. I thought it was good. And I build my box. I turn it in. Take a moment, and I sit down in my chair, because I always take a little, 10-minute break before I do anything with brisket, just to gather myself. And I sit down. This other guy comes up, random stranger comes walking back in my tent, chit-chatting with me about my smoker and what we're doing. And finally, I'm like, all right, man, I got to get my brisket ready. And he walks away. And so I jumped to my brisket, and I thought my brisket was on point. And I built the box the way I always do, and I cannot get these ribs off my brain. And at some point, I think it was during my building my brisket, when I was sitting there, I was like, hang on a minute. The guy that was telling me that my ribs were so good was walking down the street with a rib in his hand that did not have a bite out of it again. And he said he was saving that one for later.
Saving it for later.
Yeah. And so I think whenever people just started grabbing ribs off my table, I think he grabbed one out of the box. I'm going to sit here and tell you with 100% honesty, it is still 100% on me. I'm the pit master. I'm the one that shut the box. I'm the one that walked the box. It is on me. I've never had the thought of, why would you look at the ribs again? Why would you look at the brisket slices again?
Right.
You put that many in there. I was literally focused on the outside edges of the box, make sure any sauces or anything, smudges that could be marking. And I did that. I reached up, shut the lid, and off I go. And just in a rhythm, just locked in. I never looked at the ribs again. So it's not that guy's fault. It is my fault. I take full responsibility. It's no one's fault my own. I'm the pit master. I'm the one that shut the box. I'm the one that did it. But I promise you this much. I will probably look at that box 4 to 6 times on the way as I'm walking from now on. And then I don't even know how many times I'll be counting stuff between now and then.
I think we all will.
Yeah.
So
That's what
yes,
happened, and so it's 100% on me. I take full responsibility. I'm not blaming anyone else. I go turn in brisket. Jason Bumgardner and his wife are standing there, and he's kind of chit chatting with me about the cook. And I was like, yeah, I said, man, honestly, I probably had the best cook I've had in 2 years. And I said, but I won't win today. And he's like, well, why is that? And I said, well, I only had 5 ribs in the box. And I was telling him the story, right? I'm telling the story
right.
about people, and he was just flat. He was like, are you kidding? I cannot believe this. Are you serious? And about that time I look and I said, well, look. And over at my tent is, 2 passersby, and they're in my tent grabbing brisket right off the table.
Oh my gosh.
I said, look, they're taking the rest of my brisket slices right there. And when he was like, oh my God, he was flabbergasted.
Yeah.
And his wife was like, I cannot believe this. And when I got back over there, I mean, there was no need to run them off, chase them out. It is what it is, right? But when I got back over there was 1 slice of brisket left, and it was in my au jus. And the only reason it was still there is because nobody saw it. There was actually a guy standing there, just as innocent as he could be, not saying anything to anybody. And I said, dude, do you want a slice of brisket? And he was like, if you don't mind me having it. And I was like, well, everybody else has got one. Why don't you have it? He ate it, and he thought it was really good. So
Yeah. So you had to leave the contest before awards.
I had to leave the contest before awards. We're sitting around, and I'm sure there's probably some people that thought that I left because of the rib situation and blah, blah, blah. But it was in no way that. Again, it's on me. I shut the box. It's my deal.
Sure.
But no, so sitting there after awards, it's, approximately 2:45. It's me and the Mutts, Shannon and Brian Turner, and Noel Kay and Jason Singletary, who was cooking with Jason Hardy this weekend, and walked over, and we were just kind of sitting around, just, we were just joking about, everything. It is what it is. There's no need to cry over spilled milk, right? And,
right.
So we're just talking. Anyway, my cousin, who lives a couple miles up the road, calls me, and I missed his call. Anyway, long story short, I call him back, and while I'm calling him back, he answers the phone. He says, hey, man, I know you're out of town. Just want to make sure you're all right and all this kind of good stuff. Which is a weird way to start a conversation, right?
Right.
And I was like, no, man, I'm out of town, but I'm good. What's up? And he was like, well, there's an ambulance at your house. He was like, I'm pulling back right now. Like, excuse me? And my security cameras are going off, and I thought it was Kendall and Julian playing basketball or something. But so I pull up the footage, and sure enough, there's an ambulance sitting in my driveway with lights on. And my wife had been sick all day, throwing up, in dire pain, pressure in her chest, having a hard time breathe, and all that kind of good stuff. So that's when I was like, and she had called one of her friends, and one of her friends had got here. Wesley told me that her friend Laura was here. So I said, I'll call you back. And I called Laura, what's going on? She kind of gave me the quick rundown. They're getting her in the ambulance. They're taking her to the hospital. Kendall and Julian are fine. I'm gonna go with her to the hospital. And I'm like, oh my God, and
That's wow, dude.
Yeah. And so you have that realistic moment, very realistic moment that nobody wants, but you all of a sudden realize how unimportant that rib bone was.
Absolutely.
In the grand schemes of all this is a hobby. We enjoy it. It's fun, even though we take it serious. That rib bone no longer mattered. So I'm like, and you can't park your truck inside the contest, and they have the street shut down for the right. Public to be able to walk around, and the bands. And I mean, they really did a fantastic job with all that. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to get my truck in here. I got to go home, and like now. And so I go down there to where turn-ins were. And I'm trying to find Jason, the organizer, and he's in there. They're doing whatever they're doing. And I said, hey man, come here. And he comes outside, and I said, look, dude, my wife is getting an ambulance right now back home to go to the hospital with pressure in her chest, having a hard time breathing. I'm not sure what's going on, but I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here now. And I was like, NBM finals are getting ready to start where I need to bring my truck in. Jay Craig with Outlaw and those guys were there. They were in finals in 2 categories. Lonnie Smith with Bubba Grills was right beside them. He's in finals in 2 categories. And I was like, man, I'm not trying to disrupt their finals, but I got to get home. That's more important right now. I got to go. And he says, he said, "Can I get your cooker out with a Ranger?" Because they had a side by side going around. The volunteers were that's how they were shoveling trash and just kind of making things were covering some ground, right? And I was like, "Yes, I mean you can pull it." And anyway, it was too low. I said, "It's too low, man. I said, I'll leave it. I just got to go." And he said, No. He said, "I can get you in the backside. Let me go with you to your truck. Ride around. I'll get you in. We'll stop the public, whatever." So, dude, we take off to my truck. He jumps in. He tells me how to navigate around to the backside. We navigate to the backside. He opens the barrier. I get in. He's already on the radio telling people stop the public from crossing the street. And I back up to it. Man, in less than 2 minutes from me backing up to the cooker, between the Mutts, Singletary, Noel, John Wade was over there at that point. I don't even know if and Jason Bumgardner, myself, I don't know who else was over there. If I missed anyone, I apologize. But within 2 minutes, everything was hooked up, locked up in the back of my truck, and I'm pulling out.
Wow, that's incredible.
And so, they really made it happen. And I think we've all been to contests where might not have been so quick to act, but they were. And he called me twice yesterday checking on Ashley. I met this guy Friday.
That's amazing. That's great.
And, he called me twice yesterday on Sunday, just checking up on things. And so it was really cool. But, man, that's what the barbecue family is all about. They step up when they need to step up or can step up, not need to, but can step up. And, got it done, got it out, was able to, I didn't break too many traffic laws on the way home. Maintained a very healthy level of speed. But was able to get there, get to the hospital to her. I mean, she's still there right now. I'm on a break. My mother-in-law came and allowed me a little bit of time. So I came home for a break, and we're doing this podcast, which is a nice, get it off your mind situation.
Well, and I know that everyone that's listening will join me in thoughts and prayers for Ashley and you and your family, because, I mean, that is barbecue family. And that's not surprising to hear that the barbecue people stepped up and got you out of there.
No, it's not surprising at all. I mean, I had plenty of time to kind of think about that on the way home. Of course, I was keeping tabs with things, calling every, few minutes or getting phone calls from Laura or whoever, that was kind of update. They've just done lab tests. They've, got her here, got her there, that kind of thing. But, you just kind of think about that kind of stuff. And dude, my phone since Saturday night, has been blowing up.
Yeah.
People, and it nothing about the barbecue, right? Like during the awards started at 7. I was at the hospital. Shannon was keeping me informed on how things were going, which was nice because it does give you a pause, for a second to get some things off your mind. And, but I mean, outside of that, it has been phone calls and text messages, hey, but folks that weren't even there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And hey, buddy, heard your wife's in the hospital. Let me know if I can do anything. I'm like, man, you're 6 states away. But the thing about it is, if I said, dude, my dog really needs to be let out for the walk, like, there's a chance that person's going to figure out.
We figured it out. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, so I don't need that. I don't need anybody showing up at my house, let my dog out. But yeah, dude, it's incredible. I mean, and it's been, I've got text messages unanswered right now. I got to answer since we've been on the phone. I've kind of glanced at them and it's fun. How's Ashley doing? How's this? And then they might lead into after they get all that cleared up, they might go, what happened to your ribs?
Well, it's funny because, it's not funny. It's one of the things that I do when I'm not cooking and my friends are cooking is I'll text them and after they're cooking, I know they're between awards and I'll ask them how their cook went.
Yeah.
And one of my texts always goes to you. If we're not there together, then, I want to see how you did and check in and, and it was shocking.
Yeah.
You were like, it was one of the best I've ever had.
Yep.
But I messed up ribs. I only turned in 5. And I started to respond. I think I did respond with a text, but then then I responded with a phone call because I was like, wow. And then, found out everything that was going on. And one of those things, and I don't even want to say it out loud because it hasn't happened to me. But it's happened to friends of mine before, and I'm always like, well, I hope you don't get any other calls.
Yeah. That is one thought to have is like, I really hope I don't get any other calls, because then it won't matter quite as much and not as many people may realize what happened. But it was a good one this weekend, man. And I mean, I can say we have a pretty good one here, a pretty good one there. I thought it was solid. Man, I knew this one was. I mean, I didn't know it was quite the score. I got 2 180s and a 177.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's review a really good one in terms of a 180 chicken, a 180 pork, and a 177.7.
Brisket, yeah. So,
yeah,
it was, I mean, not that I expected those scores, but I knew I had that good of a cook that if the judges agreed, it could be a really good one. And I was like, I think I even told you on the phone, I was joking with you as I was driving. I was like, man, I might be the only guy that gets 3 top 5s at this contest that never doesn't walk away with the grand. And turns out I got 3 fiddles, and I'm probably the only person that ever got 3 fiddles at the same contest in Galax, Virginia, that did not win.
Right. And it's for those of you that are a 180 is a perfect score. So out of the 3 categories that Brian turned in, he missed 2.3 points out of 3 categories. That's damn.
My first 180 in port, by the way, in my career.
Yeah. What? I'm sorry?
That was my first 180 in port.
Really?
You and I talked about this after the DC contest when you got the 180 and you were
That's
like,
right.
And I was like, I said, I'm going to get my first one at the Royal, jokingly. And then I got it in Galax, Virginia. So I was a third of the way to the Royal.
Yeah, not bad. So that's an incredible amount of stuff to process in your brain over a 24-hour period.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I just, number one, there's just several observations from my perspective.
Okay.
Number one, the way you're handling this is amazing.
Well, thank you.
From the barbecue part to being a fantastic husband, like, you just solidify how solid you are. Number two, how you can go from Doug Reed being in your tent and telling you that you only had 5 ribs in the box to turning in a 180 pork box, your first 180 pork box.
Mm-hmm.
Tells me that when that decision is in your brain, you got to go 100% on it. You can't mess around.
Yep.
You're either going to finish the deal or you're just going to stop. And man, talk about finishing the deal.
I think that's part of the competitor. I grew up playing sports and just I'm ultra competitive. I mean, you and I are a lot alike in that. I mean, we've had our golf bets, we've had our barbecue bets, we've had our, what do you think, bud? You want to put your money where your mouth is on the rib bet? You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. I mean, we've had those conversations. I think the competitive part of me is certainly helped in getting my mind back into the spot. And then Noel with his timely comment of, got to get it out of your head. You got 2 more to go. And
right.
In fact, I think his comment was, there's 2 180s left on the board, and I was like, I didn't know if it was 180s, but I was like, but let's do it, man. We're here. What is packing my truck wasn't even there. What is packing my stuff up going to do? You know what I mean? And
right.
Certainly didn't want a total score of 180 in chicken. But yeah.
Well, and so I didn't know this, but you're not disqualified when you turn in 5 pieces.
So I didn't know that either until Noel, and Noel just became a certified KCBS rep. He spent the past 2 years working on that, repping contest in training, and I guess I don't know what all you got to do there, but he told me, he said Doug will take that box back to get judged, and I was like, but I'm disqualified. I don't care what they say now, and this is after pork when I had my few minutes of and he said they can still judge it. He said one judge will give you 1-1-1, which is a 1 in appearance, 1 in taste, and 1 in tenderness.
Yeah.
Every judge, all 6, will give you 1s in appearance. The other 5 that actually get a bone they will judge it accordingly, to the KCBS standard. So you're not disqualified. You will still get a score. It'll just be much lower than what you probably would have gotten if you'd have had a qualifying box. And
right.
And man, it was all 8s and 9s. I did get 1 7 in tenderness, but you got to remember. So Doug came over when he came over. It was 12:44 when he said my name, because I looked at the clock, and it was 12:44, and then he walked the box back. So I turned my rib box in it. It was at the front half of the window. It was 12:25 or 6, and so they judged those ribs, I dare say, 25 minutes later.
Absolutely.
Still got all 8s and 9s. And
didn't finish last in ribs.
And did not finish last in ribs. So, yeah.
You avoided the DAL.
I avoided the DAL. I still don't have, knock on wood, a DAL on my record. I'm next to a DAL, but not a DAL.
And ended up like right in the middle of the pack, pretty much. Ended up 17th
overall with a 684. I don't know what it was, but
683. Yeah,
683 with a 145 rib or something, and with 30. I don't know how many teams were there. It was a bunch, but yeah, it was impressive. I impressed myself. I'll say that. I don't do that a whole lot. Yep.
Well, I'm proud of you and the way that you're handling this, because I know a lot of people wouldn't handle it that way. A lot of people would have stopped after that and said, you know what, I don't have a chance now, and I don't know how it would affect me. I think it might wreck me. And
I don't advise you trying to figure out how you would handle that situation. And again, man, I'm not making excuses. There are a lot of people out here that make a bunch of excuses for a bunch of different things of why they didn't score well or why they didn't put 6 bones in the box. I'm telling the story. I'm not making excuses. It is still 100% on me. I'm the pit master. I shut the box. It's on me. Quite honestly, I don't know if I'd have realized there was 5 in the box if there was a rib left on the table for me to even throw in the box.
Right.
Because there was, 10, 12 people there, easy, just kind of free grabbing. And I'll handle that differently next time. I may or may not have mesh screens on order to put up on the side of the tent.
May or may not.
May or may not have mesh screens on, so that I don't have to deal with that again. But yeah, we'll see. So I don't advise you figuring out how you would handle it.
I don't want to. Is there anything, you mentioned you were joking around earlier that you would probably be counting pieces of meat for the rest of your life? And is there anything that you'll do different now?
Yeah, so I used to, and a lot of pit masters do this, and I used to do it, and I stopped, and I'll incorporate this back into my process as well, of taking pictures of the box. So when you build the box, you take a picture, and then you can shut it and go. Now, the question may be asked by someone listening, how would that have helped you? Well, one, I didn't look at the ribs again. I cleaned the outer edge of the box and shut the lid. Because when I placed the ribs and I put them where I was getting ready to deglove, they were where I wanted them, and they were what I wanted. I didn't look at them. I had 6. There was 5 on the table, 1 showcase. And my knife went under. I went over, slit them. tightened them up, made sure they were perfect. I mean, they was beautiful. And I turned around, walked to the trash can, degloved, come back anyway. But if I'd have taken a picture, one, it would have given me peace of mind to know that, yes, that guy did take a rib, or two, you idiot, you did put 5 in the box. I'm 95% sure I know the answer to that question because I know I had 6 there. And but it would have been able to ease my mind on that. But two, I would have had to have looked at the ribs.
Right.
Because the main reason most people take pictures of their boxes, I'm sure some people take pictures of boxes so they can, throw on social media and whatever, and that's all well and good. But I think the main reason people take pictures of their boxes is because sometimes from that camera angle and that picture, you might can see an inconsistency somewhere.
You can see a little thing. Yeah.
There might be a seed or something from the sauce sitting somewhere that you didn't pay attention to because you're looking at the bigger picture, pun intended, I guess, or no pun intended. But, when you're looking at the little picture, you might see that one little thing or, oh, my God, there's a freaking fat glob on that money muscle. How did I miss it? You know what I mean? Like those little things is what the picture does for you. And I used to take pictures, and I quit a couple years ago when I started cooking more and more by myself. And I really can't tell you why, Luke, other than the fact that I just fell out of the habit. It's kind of like whenever you stop scoring in a certain category and you go on for a few months and it pesters you because you quote unquote haven't changed a thing. And then all of a sudden you think back on it and you go, I used to do X.
Right.
It might be something so minute that you don't think it matters. It maybe it does, maybe it don't. But I bet when you start incorporating that again, your scores change.
Yeah.
And so now I will deglove and grab my phone and take a picture. But yes, I've been asked that question a couple of times. Thomas Gerhardt texted me. Messaged me yesterday, and he was like, "Hey man, you had a good cook. Congratulations on those calls." He didn't know a thing about the ribs, and I said, "Appreciate it, buddy. It was a good one. FYI, can I buy a rib?" And he was like, "What do you need to buy a rib for?" I said, "I put 5 in the box." He said, "I was not going to ask." He just saw my score and thought, "Man, how do you cook a 180, a 180, and 177 and end up with a 146 rib?" Matt Griner did the same thing Sunday night. Sunday anyway, yesterday, and he texted me and he was like, "There's no chance you could cook a 146 rib."
Right.
And I was like, "Well, the 6th bone would have helped me not have a 146."
Oh man.
But yeah. So to change things in the future, any advice I would give anybody is one, if you have a second set of eyes there, that always helps. I.e., if Ashley were with me, she'd have looked and said, "Babe, there's now 5 bones in the box," or "Babe, you actually boxed 5 bones," or whatever it may be, or "Oh my God, that guy just grabbed one of our ribs." At which point in time I probably could have found something else to throw in there if I couldn't have got that one back. But having a second set of eyes is nice. Not always, it can't always be there for us.
Right.
But I will be taking the picture from now on, and I will open that box at least once. And probably more than once. So I'll probably open it while walking, and I probably will open it up when I set it on the table just for a final glance. Before I release it. Because like I said, man, it was 12:25, 12:26. I mean, if I'd opened it up and had that old crap moment, now, again, I don't think there was any ribs left on my table maybe, but I don't know. I'd have tried to go back and at least look,
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Hopefully somebody learns and don't happen to them. And hey, if it happens to you and you catch it beforehand because you listen to this podcast, shoot me a message and thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to thank you for being open to doing this and putting this out there, because I was like, you know what? Number one, I wanted you to give a chance to explain your side, just because I know people were just asking questions on the damn awards thread, like, what the hell happened? And I was like, not my place, not going to answer it. But I want to appreciate you for coming on here to share your story, and and all of us are be thinking about Ashley. So
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. That's the most important part. That's more important than any ribs. So we'll get her squared away and bust her out of there soon, I hope, and
good.
See everybody on the barbecue trail moving forward.
Yeah, it was. I sent you a text and said, "Screw barbecue. It's not important."
Yep, you did. Yep, you did, and I appreciate that. And you and Kim checked in yesterday, and there's just been a host of people that have checked in. Yeah, I told her today. I said, boy, you got barbecue people worried about you all over the country, and her exact response were, barbecue people are the best people.
Yeah, they are.
And so that's, it means a lot for her. I mean, even though she don't even know some of these people, but it means a lot to know that randos are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, we'll drop this one in here in between the middle of these Wise episodes. And again, just want to thank you for being on here.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, Luke. I'm gonna sign off now because I'm going to head back up there. I've been too far away. I'm starting to get a little bit anxious. My hands are starting to get busy here, and I need to get back up there where I can. Well, I mean, I'll just sit, but at least I'll feel better about it. So
right on. Take care, bud.
Thanks, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. Be sure to subscribe and like the podcast, rate the podcast, and to share it out with all your friends. Also, be sure to check out the Old Virginia Smoke YouTube channel as well. Tune in next week for another great episode of Pitmaster. For companies interested in advertising, please contact Old Virginia Smoke directly via www.oldvirginiasmoke.com. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is edited by Chris Sedenka. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is a property of Old Virginia Smoke, LLC. All rights reserved.
Old Virginia.